the first slide. Why do you think the picture is of a piano? If we were face to face, hopefully you'll be telling me it's because English is a musical language. It goes up and it goes down. It has a rhythm to it. So here's another quote from Britta Haycraft, the co-founder of my current employer, International House. So I won't argue with her. So sentence stress is that important because it changes the sounds of the words. Okay, it changes the sounds. We have stressed and we have unstressed. And this changes the phonemes that we're using in each word. So the content words are the ones that are stressed, and content words are the words that carry the meaning of a sentence. So we've got verbs, we've got nouns, adjectives, numerals, and adverbs, okay? So the content words, if you only understand the content words, you will understand the meaning. So in this sentence, I've never been to Riga before. I've never been to Riga before. I've never been to Riga before. Which three are the content words? You don't have to write anything, just have a think. Which three words here are the content words? Three words. I've never been to Riga before. So this is a program called GarageBand on iTunes, and I recorded myself saying this, and you can see where the stressed words are, where the content words are. I've never been to Riga before. So the content words are never been Riga. So you can see it here. Never, which is also a word stress. Never been to Riga before. I've never been to Riga before. Okay, so if you can get something like this and have your students record themselves and then see where the stress is in their sentence, and then they can see what they need to do to change it, then they record themselves again, see where the stress is, and then record themselves again. They can do this with their own phones, okay? You don't need to buy any flashy equipment or, you know, hire out a music studio, but this is a really visual way that they can see how the sentence stress is working. So English is a stress-timed language. What does this mean? It means that it has a beat. It has a beat. Other languages are syllable time. For example, Spanish, every syllable has its own, has the same strength. So I might say, I'm talking in Spanish, I might say, el pastelero es el mejor profesor del mundo. El pastelero es el mejor profesor del mundo. Okay? Or el Uzi es el rey de Tobarra. El Uzi es el rey de Tobarra. And you can hear that all of the syllables have the same strength. Okay, it doesn't go up and down like English does. It goes across, bang, 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 bang. El Uzi es el rey de Tobarra. It's true, he is the king of the village. Okay, so we can show the students this by making a beat with our hands. Clapping, I think it's called. I think it's free as well, so if you have a budget, it's not a problem. So you can clap a rhythm, and then you can include words in the rhythm, the stressed words. Sell, car, gone, Minsk. Sell, car, gone, Minsk. Continue the rhythm. Sell my car, I've gone to Minsk. Sell my car, I've gone to Minsk. Can you sell my old car because I've gone to live in Minsk? Can you sell my old car because I've gone to live in Minsk? So you can see how the content words, the time between the content words is the same, and all we do is add in the structure words, the unstressed words in the sentence. And again, I did this with GarageBand just to make it visual for you. And if you want to use these slides, they'll be up on my Well, they are up on my blog now, and I'll give you the website, and you can take them from there, download them for yourselves, and show your students exactly what we mean when we talk about stress in a sentence. And again, here you can see how the bigger the sound is where the stress is. And then the little ones are the unstressed words. So yeah, I'd encourage you to go back and have a look at all this for yourself later on. Okay, so we've got rules of stress, shall we say, neutral stress, and then we've got nuclear stress. Okay, so this is nuclear stress at the moment. Our two friends there. And what nuclear stress is that you can stress any word in a sentence. So this goes against what we just said, okay? But this is very, very real. If you remember the first table about intelligibility, this was one of the core features of intelligibility. So I can say, I'm Mr. Ung, and you say to Trump, Kim Jong-un says to Trump, it's not definite, but maybe you need to call me. And then Trump says, I don't think it's it's not an obligation. I think it's a necessity. I think you need to call me. And then Kim Jong-un says to Trump, look, no more text messages, no more letters, no more WhatsApps. I think you need to call me. And then Trump says, look, stop talking to the Chinese Prime Minister. Stop talking to Putin. I think you need to call me. So you can hear how the stress of one word changes the whole sentence. And so you could give your students to, if we're talking about integrating pronunciation into lessons, then imagine you're working on a particular grammar structure, or you're working on question forms. Let's take this one. You're working on question forms, and you just let them do a little bit of play acting with it. So let's look at this question. What do you want from me? And you say to them, okay, well, invent different situations and you can stress different words. What do you want from me? 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 Okay, I'm sure you can all imagine situations where each word is stressed, each content word usually. What do you want from me? 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 And so what's happening here is the students are not only play acting and having a bit of fun, but they're repeating the structure of the grammar and they're remembering it better as a result. They're remembering it because they're repeating it, and they're remembering it because they're giving it meaning and they're giving it a personal touch. So, as promised, we've come to the end. And this is the blog site that belongs to me. That's my name, jamesegerton.wordpress.com. And these are the two specific articles that I've written recently, which talk about everything that we've discussed today. Okay, so there are more activities that we didn't have time to go into. There are more activities and more tips and more theory on these issues of phonemes. It's in this one, and then word stress and sentence stress, which is in this one. So please do go on. Please do try out these things in your classrooms, okay? It's great that you're here. I'm really pleased that you're here. But it doesn't mean anything unless you start using it with your students, because we need to make sure that these things trickle down to the ones that we teach. Definitely, says Miley. Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, so please do use these things and then email me and tell me how they went. I'm interested because I only have my teaching context. I have my students, and maybe you have bigger classes. Maybe you're in Spain like Jose Luis. Maybe you have a class of 35 children in a Latvian state school, and you try these things out and you say this works and this doesn't work, or this is how I adapted it. So let me know. I am very interested to find out how these things work or not in your situations. So we have a few minutes for questions. So please write the questions in the chat box. So Agija, the first question, what system did you use for the sentence stress presentation? So tell me if I'm wrong, but are you talking about the, let's get the slide quickly. Are you talking about the program? This one? It was called Garage Band. So garage with a capital G and band with a capital G, capital B. And it's on iTunes, but it was a free download. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's a great tool. As I say, students can actually see what's happening. So 2 important takeaways: it has to be physical, and pronunciation has to be visual as well. So more questions, please, in the chat box. Jose Luis, I know you have a question. I can see your face there. So as I'm waiting for questions, I can fill the silence. But please do start typing a question. Do you do vocal exercises? Well, that's a really good question, Diana. And I think all of these are vocal exercises, especially when you're talking about the phonemes using the phonemic chart. This is a workout. I've got another blog post called the Mouth Gym, because that's what it is. It's exercising your mouth. And, you know, different languages use different muscles in the mouth or not. And so many of our students aren't used to using certain muscles or, you know, putting the tongue in a certain place or opening the jaw. So you really need to exercise the physicality of it. But in terms of actual vocal exercises, you know, I don't gargle water, for example. But yeah, I mean, once you start using proprioception and, you know, exaggerating the movements, then you are doing vocal exercises. Do I sing in the lessons? Sometimes, yeah. There's a thing called, I mean, you could do karaoke. It depends on your students because that's exaggerating the sounds. But there's also a thing called a lip sync battle. Oh, and we just have about a few minutes left on our free platform. But anyway, so sorry, to carry on. There's a thing called a lip sync battle where the song goes on in the background and the students just mouth. They do the shape of the mouth of the movements for the words. So I've just written another blog called Lip Sync Battles, something like this, lip sync. But if your students are brave, then of course you can do karaoke because it exaggerates the movement of the mouth. Let's go to the next question. What could be the best activities for big classes, 24 students? That's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked, because it's great for me that I've only got 10 or 12 students in a class, maximum, here at International House. But when you've got 24, so imagine you've got 24, you can split them into 8 groups of 3, and then you can do the standing stress activity. For example, so you could give out 3-syllable words and they can work in their little groups. Everyone can use an elastic band for the word stress to stretch the stress. Or they can use jumpers, you know, because it can be a discipline issue if children start swallowing the elastic bands or flicking them across the room. So yeah, I think anything can be used for a big class as well. And the great thing about all these pronunciation activities are that because you're making them physical and visual, I might have said that about 20 times already, but it's most important. Because you're making it physical and visual, the children, young people, and adults are entertained, okay? They are mentally engaged. And so discipline problems are less because they are doing something interesting and they are moving. So yeah, I would encourage you really to try it with your large classes and see what happens. Mila, sorry if I mispronounced your name. My response was that by using correct pronunciation, we make communication smoother. How would you respond to this, James? Yeah, that's a really good point. As I said at the very beginning, I'm a native speaker, but that does not mean that I am a better pronunciation teacher. One thing is having a good model, which I do have. Another completely different thing is being able to teach students pronunciation. That means understanding the features of pronunciation and having a range of interesting physical, visual activities that you can do with them. Okay, so please do not think that because you're not a native speaker, you can't teach pronunciation. You should. You must teach pronunciation because it really is that important to communication. So don't wait until you're perfect. By all means, work on your own pronunciation and be a good, an example to the students. But having the knowledge and having the tools, having the ability to say, having the ability to use different activities in class, that makes you the best pronunciation teacher there is. It doesn't matter, what your first language is. Okay, your students say it's not important. Well, it is important. You can explain to them how it's important. You can read them a sentence with the wrong pronunciation and say, do you understand this? No, because pronunciation is that important. Pronunciation is communication, okay? If we want our students to communicate, then we should be looking at pronunciation and they should care about pronunciation. Next question from 869499270. That's a nice first name. Is it Latvian or? What would you do in large classes with fast finishes? 2 to 3 groups will finish faster for sure. Well, with all of the activities, you could give them more words. You could give them more sentences. So it's not really a problem for that. If you know they're going to finish fast, then give them more complex words, more complex sentences. But there's millions of words in English, so there's always more words that we can practice, and there's always more sentences that we can practice with the sentence stress. Any more questions? We just have a few minutes left before we disappear into thin air. Zani, what activities would you suggest that students can do outside of school? That's a really good question, because pronunciation is something that, reading and writing we can do, even listening we can do for homework, right? But pronunciation, not so much. We think, but that's a good question. You made me think. Well, I mean, you could get the students to practice word stress and sentence stress. You could get them to record themselves on their phones saying certain sentences or reading out certain passages. I've got one idea for you. You give each student the same passage and you get them to record it on their phones, and then they come back to class, they swap phones and they correct each other's pronunciation. They mark on the script where the stress was and where the stress should have been, and then they re-record it and they try to make it better. So recording themselves is another good one, or getting them to go through a video on YouTube, writing out the words and marking the stressed words and marking the word stress as well. Marina, how to teach Russian students pronounce long vowel sounds. I wish we had the video, Marina, because I would have showed you how you gesture. So the E, you can't see me, but I've got my 2 hands up and I'm pulling my mouth. I'm imagining that I've got a string on my left side and a string on my right side, and I'm pulling my hands apart. E. So you need to gesture and you need to exaggerate these sounds. Gesture and exaggerate. And that's an important thing as well, because if the teacher is too embarrassed to exaggerate and to experiment with the sounds, experiment with the physicality of pronunciation, then the students won't do it. Okay, so you really need to put yourself out there and be enthusiastic about this for the students to even have half of the enthusiasm. Okay, are there any more questions? Because I'd like to say goodbye instead of just being cut off. Well, look, if there are any more questions, you've got my email down there, james.egerton@tiscali.co.uk, and you've got my blog, jamesegerton.wordpress.com. And I'd just like to say thank you very, very much for joining me. It really is great to see, not see because I can't see you, but it really is great to be able to talk to teachers. But again, I remind you that the important thing is that we're not talking about it, just talking about pronunciation. But do use these activities and tips with your students and let me know how they went. Okay. But yeah, it's been great. I really enjoyed myself. I hope you found it useful, and I hope that we will meet again in person, and we will be doing more webinars with the Latvian Association of Teachers of English in the future and other live events as well. So thank you very, very much for joining me, and I hope to see you soon. So we'll be in touch. Have a good weekend.